Hello, America. I'm nobody. I'm running for President of the United States 2028. And today I want to talk a little bit about a living wage. To me, a living wage is, well, it's a wage that I can make and maybe put a roof over my head and be able to afford to feed myself and keep my kids in clothing. So if you're interested in learning more, follow my full version of this post to find out more. And if you like my posts, please share. Right now, I'm nobody, and if we don't share with anybody, then I'll still be nobody about 2 years from now. So thank you for your help. So let's continue on. For those who are bearing with me and want to hear the whole thing, I'm going to put my hat on. I shaved my head today, and it's all shiny, and I got a glare, so I'm going to put my hat on here and talk to you and look like I should work on a tugboat or something, a longshoreman. So this first chart I want to show you is welfare expenditures adjusted for inflation. So welfare is a big issue. A lot of people complaining because we're giving away money to people who are a bunch of deadbeats and aren't willing to help work. I don't agree with that. I don't think they're deadbeats. I think times are tough. People work hard. We all have different abilities. Some of us are able to make more. Some of us don't make as much. Some of us come from families who are a little bit more well-to-do, and I think we have a little better starting point when we are. The poorest families don't have anything, and so sometimes when a family member dies, they ended up taking on their debt. So it's hard. So anyways, let's look at this welfare. You can see down at the bottom, I'm going to turn on my little laser here. Got a laser pointer. And that's that little thing spinning around on the screen that you can see. And so looking down here at the bottom, we've got all these different categories of expenditures adjusted for inflation, welfare expenditures, and they're categorized. And those colors match up with the colors we see here in the chart. Okay, and all of them seem to pretty well increase about the same amount. There's a few that go up just a little bit more, but they all seem pretty consistent. And those colors match up with this part of the chart over here in billions. That's how much we're spending. So you can see in 1968, we didn't spend very many billions. And way over here to the right, we're spending lots of billions. There's a red line that goes across here. You kind of follow my laser. And that's this down here. This is our poverty rate. And it matches up with these percentages over here. So when I look at our poverty rate, at least now, and I compare that all the way on to the left to back 1964, well, our poverty rate is actually not too bad a shape. Since about 2013 or 14, it looks like our poverty rate has been going down. So I think that's a positive for our economy. And that's good news for both, Democrats and Republican parties. I think they both can take a little bit of claim there. Down here at the bottom here is pretty low. That was toward the end of the Trump 1.0. So whatever he was doing was certainly decreasing our welfare expenditures. And then we got this giant spike right here. And I don't know if anybody can think about why that spike is there. I expect a lot of you said, well, that's COVID. Yes, so we can blame Biden's policies, or we can also look at it and say, hey, there were some tough times, and a lot of people globally were in pretty bad shape. And then this chart only goes to 2014, so we can't see beyond that to see if things have got better or got worse. But you can see at the end of COVID, we were getting a little closer to where we need to be. If I look back here at 2009 or so, you can see that we were beginning to reduce welfare expenses. So we've been making some positive progress over the last 12 years or so. And so I think that's a good thing. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of show you where we are with welfare and what percentage of the population we're talking about. So here we have a chart that shows the federal minimum hourly wage in the United States. So down at the bottom in blue is the actual federal minimum wage. So way back here in 1984, let's see, in 84, I was about right here and I was making $2.85 an hour back then. Today, minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. Okay, so if we look at this goldish yellow line and go back, what this line represents is the federal minimum wage in inflation adjusted dollars. So think of it as like buying power. So they intersect right here at $7.25 because, and this is 2023, minimum wage hasn't changed since then in the last 2 years. So I'd be willing to bet this yellow line probably comes down and goes down well below where minimum wage. So it's even worse. But what this means is in 2023, if you made $7.25, you could buy $7.25 worth of stuff. If we go back to 2007, minimum wage had just went up over the last, I don't know, year or two and was up to $7.25 an hour. But your buying power up here, it's like you were making $11 an hour in 2023. So you only made 7, but compared to today, it's like you made $11. And what's interesting, if we see this little stair step in blue, this is our minimum wage rising. Look at what it did for the buying power of average everyday Americans, those on the bottom of the scale, just starting out in the workforce. Excuse me. If we go back to about 1996, you can see there was an increase in the minimum wage. And look what happened to their buying power. For a year or two, as minimum wage went up, so did their buying power. And then slowly over time, that buying power waned away. Why? Because of inflation. The pay never changed, but the prices of things continue to go up, and therefore over time, we lose our buying power. Just like here back in 2008 or so, 2009, jumped up to 725. And ever since then, in the last, 16 or so years, American buying power, the lowest folks on the scale, are able to afford less and less and less and less. So it makes you wonder why we're spending more on some of these social programs, okay, to help a lot of Americans. And we can find that consistently. We go back here, you can see it jumped up. We go back here, 1975, here's some slow incremental increases, and it's a little bit erratic, but look where we were, 12 bucks an hour. The equivalent of $12 an hour. All the way back here in 1947, even though you only got paid, 60 cents an hour, it's like you made $6 an hour today. Way back in 1967, when my dad started workforce, I think he started working at 3M in something like 1964 or 63 or so. Man, look at that. Minimum wage was here, way down here, but your buying power was like $14 an hour. That was the golden age, and that's when everybody was rich. So I don't know what golden age we're talking about today, but for average everyday Americans, there's no golden age going on unless we're going to change this. And it's not going to change if we allow our employers to pay so little. All right, so enough of that. Next slide. So the other day I was talking and I'm like, hey, what if we raised corporate income tax revenue? Maybe that would help. Maybe they would pay their employees more. So let's look at it over time, and you can see these big spikes, Here's World War II, getting into Korea there, probably Vietnam kind of in this area. And then in about 1983, you can see the corporate income tax revenue is at its lowest. Now keep in mind, this is compared with GDP. So if GDP changes, that's going to change the chart as well. So if the economy was slow then that's going to maybe bring that down a little bit. But we're down at 1%. Corporate income tax revenue, 1% of our GDP. Way back here in 1942 at 7%. We probably needed that because we had a lot of expenses. World War II wasn't cheap. Okay, so we got 1982, 83 time frame, and ever since then, it's been fairly steady. You can see it's jumping up and down, but it's really, if we even this out, took a bulldozer and ran it through here, it's really pretty flat right there. Okay. So what I did is I took those last two charts and I overlaid them on top of each other. Came pretty close to lining up the years, so there's some slight variation here. But what I wanted to see is how does the federal income tax, the dark blue line, is there a correlation between the yellow line, which is our wages, our buying power, and this blue line here, which is minimum wage, that's slowly gone up? Well, I see a little bit of relationship here that kind of matches here. Okay, so maybe that could be a correlation. Correlation doesn't necessarily mean causation. I learned that from a good friend. Okay, but it kind of looks like they line up. Maybe there's something going on there. All right, so I'll show you another graph that I found. This is the budget deficit in trillions of dollars. So way back here in the 1940s, we were, we're talking like $1 trillion or less. That was our deficit. So we've always had kind of a deficit, but it certainly wasn't too bad until we got into about the 1980s. And right here it says 2024, 35 trillion. We're nowhere near that. We're over $38 trillion right now. 38 trillion in 1 year. So from 2024 to 2038, our golden age of being the richest we've ever been in history, well, our debt is $38 trillion. So we're making America rich. I don't know who that America is, but it's not John Q, average, everyday person like you and me. So I stacked those on top of themselves, and now I've got four charts all stacked up, and it looks like a mess. But if you just look at the lines, okay, we've got the red line here, which is our national deficit. We got the yellow line, that's our buying power. We've got this small blue line, which is our federal minimum wage. And then we got this big blue line, which is our corporate income tax revenue. So I looked at that and said, is there anything that's a correlation there? Any kind of relationship? Well, if you go back to 1983, now I'm not an economist and I'm not a college expert on any of this stuff, but just pulling up these charts, because we like to talk about common sense. So let's talk about common sense. So dumb guy like me, I was a shop teacher. Even though I taught shop people how to cut boards, things like that. But in 1983, look at that transition. So that is the lowest that we were at in corporate income tax. And ever since then, look how this line starts shooting up. Look at the angle change. Here we're pretty flat. And then interesting, in 1983, it starts going up. And look what stays stable. Corporate income tax. And slowly, over the years, because our debt increases, and now we have to pay interest on that debt, and then our debt increases, and we have to pay interest on that debt, and I can keep going. And now look at where we're at, way up here, and our corporate income tax is way down here, the same place it was in 1983, 40 years ago. So you tell me that corporate income taxes have no relationship to our deficit. I'm nobody. Today I talked a little bit about a living wage. Tried to give you an idea of what I think might just help a little bit. If you're an average everyday American, then maybe a higher minimum wage might be good for you. If you're a corporation, I'm basically saying I want to raise corporation income tax revenue. You're probably not going to like me. So there goes my billions of dollars in handouts, okay, for looking out for the rich. But I want to look out for you. So be strong, America. Love thy neighbor. Together, I know we can do better. I am nobody, and I'm running for President of the United States in 2028. Nobody out.